We, William, by God's grace King of Prussia, accept the call of the German princes and free towns to renew the dignity of Emperor, which has stood vacant for 60 years. For the sake of the fatherland, we now take up this duty. These are fragments of Wilhelm I's speech at Versailles on January 18, 1871, the moment that marked the birth of the German Empire. Forged through wars with Denmark, Austria and France, the new empire was young, ambitious and already defined by militarism and political tension. Over the next 4 decades, Imperial Germany would grow into one of Europe's most powerful states, its politics, society and ambitions shaping the continent's destiny. When the First World War erupted in 1914, Germany stood at its very center. Today, we will explore the essential aspects of how Germany functioned from its establishment in 1871 until the outbreak of the war in 1914. The German Empire, also known as Imperial Germany, formally emerged on the political map of Europe on January 1st, 1871. The war with France completed the process of integrating the German states into a single country, with the ceremony taking place on January 18th, 1871 in Versailles, where the Prussian king Wilhelm I formally accepted the title of German Emperor. The same year, the new state's parliament approved and promulgated the constitution. But what were the main clauses of the constitution? Let's start with the federal structure. The empire was a union of 25 states, including kingdoms, duchies, principalities and free cities. Each state retained certain rights, but key powers such as the military, foreign policy, customs and common law were centralized. Prussia was overwhelmingly dominant, shaping the federal balance. Monarchy and executive power. The German emperor held supreme executive authority. He appointed and dismissed the Chancellor, who was the only imperial minister and answered to the emperor, not the parliament. The emperor controlled diplomacy, war and peace, the army and the promulgation of laws. Legislative dualism. Lawmaking was shared between two bodies. Bundesrat represented the governments of the member states and was dominated by Prussia, and Reichstag, elected by a universal male suffrage and represented the people. Both bodies had to agree for a law to pass. Parliamentary limitations. The Reichstag had no power to form or dismiss governments. It controlled parts of the budget and could debate laws, but ultimate authority rested with the emperor and Bundesrat. This gave the empire an authoritarian character despite democratic elections. Military and finances. The army was a single imperial force under the emperor's direct command. Military service was compulsory for all German men. Imperial finances were funded through customs, taxes and contributions from the states, with the Chancellor accountable for reporting but not dependent on the parliament's confidence. The constitution of the German Empire clearly explains its purpose. It states that the member states form a lasting union to protect the territory and rights of the Confederation and to look after the welfare of the German people. This union was called the German Empire. Prussia played an immense political role within the empire for several reasons. First, it had territorial and demographic dominance, comprising approximately 2/3 of the empire's territory and around 60% of its population. Second, constitutional clauses ensured that the King of Prussia automatically became the German Emperor. The Kaiser had extensive powers, including appointing and dismissing the Chancellor, commanding the armed forces, being the final arbiter of foreign affairs, and having the power to dissolve the Reichstag and call new elections. In simple terms, the German political system can be described as constitutional monarchy. However, power was not only about institutions, but also about the individual holding office. The central figure in our story is Otto von Bismarck, the first imperial chancellor and the man whose role in uniting Germany is difficult to overestimate. Bismarck also served as Minister-President of Prussia and exerted immense influence over the drafting of the constitution. He deliberately designed the German Empire's constitutional framework to ensure that executive power remained firmly in the hands of the monarch and his appointed Chancellor, significantly limiting the Reichstag's influence despite its democratic electoral basis. The Imperial Chancellor appointed by the Kaiser was solely responsible to the Kaiser, not to the Reichstag. This fundamental principle meant that even a unanimous vote of no confidence from the Reichstag could not remove the Chancellor from office. The Parliament of the German Empire consisted of two main legislative assemblies, the Council of the Confederation, Bundesrat, and the Imperial Diet, Reichstag. Both bodies played crucial roles in the legislative process, and the approval of a majority of votes in both assemblies was necessary and sufficient for a law to pass. The Bundesrat represented the individual confederated states within the empire. Its members were nominated by the governments of the constituent states. Votes were distributed unequally among the states. For example, Prussia had 17 votes, Bavaria 6, Saxony 4, and Württemberg 4, out of a total of 58 votes. The Bundesrat represented the member states in lawmaking, determined which bills reached the Reichstag, supervised and enforced the execution of imperial laws, formed committees for military, finance, justice, commerce and other areas, settled disputes between the states, and held a veto on constitutional amendments. For example, 14 opposing votes were sufficient to block an amendment. The Reichstag was the popularly elected assembly, introducing a democratic element to the empire's governance. Members were elected by universal and direct male suffrage through secret ballots. They were considered representatives of the entire people and were not bound by instructions from constituents or parties. The Reichstag could propose and debate laws within the empire's competence, approved or rejected bills originating from the Bundesrat, voted on the budget and revenues, provided a public forum for political discussion, granted its members parliamentary immunity. A multi-party system existed within the Reichstag, and no single party had an absolute majority. As a result, coalitions were common. Although chancellors needed to negotiate with parties to advance their political agendas, the Reichstag's influence was often limited to approving laws with minimal impact on the executive branch. According to the constitution, the German emperor served as commander-in-chief and the entire military structure was subordinated to him, with civilian control effectively excluded. The prestige of the military and Prussian traditions ensured that the armed forces remained an essential component of state policy. Additionally, Germany's perception of its precarious geopolitical position, situated at the center of Europe and surrounded by potential enemies, fueled the widespread belief in the necessity of a strong military. Upon the unification of Germany, foreign policy fell under the responsibility of Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. His primary goal was to guarantee Germany's independence by creating a system of alliances with Austria-Hungary and Russia while isolating France, which remained hostile after its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–1871. Bismarck's diplomatic efforts were reflected in several key agreements. 1873, the Free Emperors League was established between Russia, Germany and Austria-Hungary. 1879, a defensive alliance was concluded between Germany and Austria-Hungary, with Italy joining in 1882. 1887, the reinsurance treaty between Germany and Russia guaranteed conditional neutrality if either country became involved in a war. These measures effectively prevented France from securing a reliable ally for retaliation against Germany. At the outset, Bismarck showed little interest in affairs beyond Europe. Colonial expansion was not a priority. Instead, he focused on German security and continental matters. During the so-called Scramble for Africa, Germany did establish protectorates in parts of Africa and the Pacific, but Bismarck viewed these acquisitions primarily as diplomatic leverage rather than an end in themselves. Everything changed in 1888 when Wilhelm II ascended to the throne. The new emperor and Bismarck had fundamentally different visions for Germany's development, leading to repeated quarrels over foreign policy and military strategy. Their cooperation ended in 1890 when Bismarck was forced to resign. Bismarck's resignation marked a new chapter in German foreign policy. Within days of his dismissal, Wilhelm II allowed the reinsurance treaty with Russia to lapse. This treaty had ensured neutrality between Germany and Russia, preventing the risk of a two-front war. Its lapse had serious consequences. Only 4 years later, France formed a defensive alliance with Russia. Wilhelm II became actively involved in foreign affairs beyond Germany, as exemplified by the First and Second Moroccan crisis. He promoted the expansion of Germany's navy, supporting the Tirpitz naval program to achieve global naval supremacy. This assertive and ambitious foreign policy became known as Weltpolitik, reflecting the idea that Germany must assert itself among the world's great powers by all means deemed necessary. The foundation for these policies was Germany's rapid industrialization. By 1914, Germany had become one of Europe's leading economies, rivaling Britain in steel, coal and chemical production. Growth was driven largely by private enterprise and powerful industrial cartels, supported by protective tariffs, railway expansion and the stabilizing role of the Reichsbank. Pharmaceuticals, coal, iron and steel flourished, while urbanization accelerated in step with economic expansion. Since its emergence on the European political map, the German Empire pursued economic development and relative stability. Although officially a constitutional monarchy, its system was authoritarian in practice, with most power concentrated in the hands of the emperor and his appointed chancellor. The Kaiser exercised decisive influence over foreign policy and the military as commander-in-chief, while domestic legislation formally required cooperation between the Chancellor, the Bundesrat and the Reichstag. The Reichstag, elected by universal male suffrage, functioned mainly as a law-making and budgetary body, but its influence over the executive branch remained limited. For nearly 2 decades, Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, in close cooperation with Kaiser Wilhelm I, shaped a foreign policy aimed at preserving continental stability and preventing Germany's encirclement through a carefully constructed system of alliances. However, Wilhelm II's succession in 1888 marked a sharp departure. His pursuit of expansionist ambitions and open rivalry with neighboring powers undermined Bismarck's legacy of balance, ultimately creating the conditions in which Germany faced the prospect of a two-front war.